Bujumbura in 2013, Nairobi in January 2015, Luanda in December 2015, and Khartoum in 2016. Bangui in 2017, Brazzaville in 2018, and Bujumbura in 2019. An online one in 2021 was held, and in Nairobi 2022 respectively. This is to appreciate that it was the first time that the plenary assembly was being held physically after the outbreak of the COVID-19. Madam Speaker, the Kenya delegation to the said plenary comprised of 1, the Right Honorable Amason Jaffa Kingi, EGH, MP, Speaker and the leader of the delegation. Secondly, Senator Roba Ali Ibrahim, EGH, MP, Senate. Senator Hezena Lemaletian, MP, Senate. Honorable Maurice Kakai Bissau, MP, National Assembly. And Honorable Mugambi Mwiridhania Rindikiri, MP, National Assembly. Madam Speaker, during the 13th ordinary session of the Plenary Assembly, the Conference of Speakers and the Plenary Assembly considered the various documents and resolutions, including 1, the report of the 12th ordinary session of the Plenary Assembly of the FPICGLR, activities reports of FPICGLR committees, and that includes the permanent committee's reports and the ad hoc committee on finance. Secondly, the draft resolutions of the 13th ordinary session of the Plenary Assembly. Thirdly, the joint report of the 26th ordinary session of the Executive Committee on Activity and Financial Report for the year 2022 of the General Secretariat of FPICGLR. Fourth, the action plan and budget for the FPICGLR for the year 2023 to 2024. And fifth, the 2021 audit report and the consultant's report on the amendment of the founding documents of the IPICGLR. And lastly, the transformation of the ad hoc committee on finance into a permanent committee, because the forum found that this was a very crucial committee and there was a need for it to be made a permanent committee. Further, Madam Speaker, for the functional and smooth operation of the forum during the 13th ordinary session of the Plenary Assembly of the FPICGLR, new bureaus of permanent committees to the plenary were introduced, with Honorable Maurice Kakai Bissau MP being elected as the President of the Committee on Peace and Security, and Honorable Mugambi Mwiridhania Rindikiri MP as the President of the Committee on Democracy and Good Governance from the Parliament of Kenya. It must be noted, Madam Speaker, that I did a very thorough campaign for those two. Madam Speaker, the Executive Committee and the Conference of Speakers also deliberated on the recent evolution of security, political, and humanitarian situation in the Great Lakes region. Key among this being the situation in the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Republic of South Sudan, and the Republic of Sudan. Madam Honorable Speaker, it is also during this plenary meeting that the then President of the Forum, who is our Right Honorable Speaker Amason Jaffa Kingi, handed over as the President of the Forum to the Speaker of the Transitional National Legislative Assembly of the South Sudan, Right Honorable Jema Nunu Kumba. And the delegation thanks the Office of the Speaker of the Senate and the Clerk of the Senate for the continued support towards facilitating the activities of the Forum of Parliaments for the International Conference and Great Lakes region. Madam Speaker, I therefore beg to move and request Senator Honorable Cherargei to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to congratulate Senator Hezena Lemaletian for ably moving this report. And I think the issue of Kenya being part of the Great Lake community is by extension East Africa community. The Parliament and be taken role, and I'm happy that the issue of Parliament become regional legislative arm, Madam Speaker, and I think being part of the conflict resolution and other mechanisms is very important for Parliament. And one of the ways for us to ably legislate some of the proposals that will alleviate and create harmony across our region. Madam Speaker, under Article 2.6 of the Constitution of Kenya, any international law that is ratified become automatically part of law. And I think the resolutions that they have done as a legislative body that has been proposed by the Republic of Angola, Republic of Burundi, Central Africa Republic, Republic of Congo, DRC, Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan, and of course Republic of Sudan, Republic of Uganda, and United Republic of Tanzania and Zambia. So any resolutions that have been made, I think for purposes of today's motion, Madam Speaker, Article 2.6 will kick in because it forms part of Kenya. Madam Speaker, I have only 4 questions on the observation of the report, or 4 contributions, so that I can allow, Madam Speaker, on the issue of, I know Kenya is playing a critical role, especially in peace process in South Sudan. You remember the other day, His Excellency the President held a meeting with the South Sudan President and other stakeholders in peace building in South Sudan. We know the history of Sudan, and coincidentally, I was watching today when President Museveni was speaking about how South Sudan was given self-determination. And I didn't know that Senator Zena Lemaletian would request to second this issue of Great Lakes, Madam Speaker. So I think on the issue of that Kenya has taken a lead, I know there are people like Ambassador Lasaras, Sumbeiwa, there was President Moi, President Kibaki, President Uhuru, and now President William Ruto. South Sudan continues to enjoy, and Kenya has shown goodwill by providing necessary. I hope other countries can follow suit and ensure this place. Even in DRC, Madam Speaker, in Eastern DRC, Madam Speaker, the former President Uhuru Kenyatta is leading peace efforts in that region. Kenya has contributed significantly in terms of Kenya Defense Forces, who are trying to give the necessary support in terms of peace in that region. Madam Speaker, the only curse that has bedeviled DRC as a region is because of the minerals. I know it's only DRC where you cannot, you have at least every minerals. And I would have expected a number of men to be getting not minerals per se, but jewelry to women from DRC Congo. For Madam Speaker, coincidentally, DRC Congo is not known for the minerals, because the minerals have become the oil cars that we see in other parts of Africa. The only thing we know about DRC Congo is Kanda Bongoman, Rumba. I know in your generation, Madam Speaker, those were songs that were being used to woo you into relationship and marriage in those days, wearing belly bottoms and
Objection, Senator Chirarige. Proceed.
My apologies, maybe you were used gospel songs to woo you, or in church, gestures, Madam Speaker. But I know a number of our mothers and sisters who are being used to by rumba songs and like Kanda Bongoman, Tabule. I think a number of musicians that we have today, Kofi Olomide. So DRC is known more of music as opposed to minerals, which should not be the case. And also, Madam Speaker, on a lighter touch, I know people there bleach themselves also. I was watching another minister when, 10 years ago, he was dark like me. And they say, the darker the berry, the sweeter the chews, and he has transformed himself, Madam Speaker. So while we focus on the bringing peace in DRC, we hope that minerals will be a blessing in that country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on Central Africa Republic, I know there are a number of organizations that continue to provide insecurity. Madam Speaker, and we need to be careful because this region, in totality from South Sudan, is a conflict. It is like terrorism per se, because it's creating insecurity, it's affecting investments, it's affecting peace in our region. And I don't see why Africans, we should be fighting. We are one people. We should promote one love, as Bob Marley would sing, Madam Speaker, the song of one love. If we can promote one love through Senator Zena Lemaletian, we'll have peace. Because if we have love, even the Holy Bible talks about love. So even, Madam Speaker, we need to encourage one love across Africa to resolve And you know, people like Bob Marley might have sung during those years because of issues of independence, issues of struggle for independence. And he said, even if you are Chinese, you are African, Madam Speaker, you must. Madam Speaker, on Congo, and I want Senator Lemaletian to note this, because she is the owner, she should be aware that Congo is one of the unique countries that women face the biggest threat. In fact, the worst country to live, as per research, for a woman is DRC Congo. Because it has been referred even in United Nations conversation, even in European Parliament, that every hour 48 women are raped in DRC, Madam Speaker. And a number of women have undergone sexual violence and offenses. And I hope when Senator Lemaletian goes back to this plenary, he should bring to attention. And I'm happy United Nations and ICC, Madam Speaker, in 2008, ratified that war can be classified, rape can be classified as part of international criminal offenses. Because many people were using rape as a weapon of war. And I'm happy United Nations are ratified through ICC that use of rape, Madam Speaker, is now classified as an international crime. I hope, and I saw the ICC prosecutor, Madam Speaker, complaining because the issue of warrant of arrest of Hamas leaders and President Netanyahu of Israel over conflict in Gaza. And he was being told ICC only belongs to Africans. And Putin, Madam Speaker, the Russian president. So I don't know, we must have a conversation as a League of Nations that we need to look. But I want her to note that the issue of rape is very serious in northeastern Congo, and I hope as she goes back, those are things that she can note in eastern Congo, Madam Speaker. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, this report is largely, and I want to thank the Kenyan delegation led by our own Speaker, members of National Assembly. I can see they did a good job. An upshot, Madam Speaker, is I saw somewhere where members of parliament now need to move and ensure. I think number 2 is on humanitarian crisis. I'm happy, and we have had discussion with the mover that we need also to work closely with United Nations human refugees, UNCHR. Madam Speaker, we have in Uganda, we have here in Kagoma here, and many other parts. I think we need to work closely to ensure we mitigate the effects of refugees so that their basic rights are not violated, basics to shelter, food, and also education. And Kenyan government, I think, and other governments that are part of this should sit down and alleviate the humanitarian crisis. The only threat, Madam Speaker, is the attack of United Nations staff that have happened in other countries. And I saw in CNN it happened in this Central Africa Republic, where United Nations staff were attacked. I've seen many cases, but I'm happy, Madam Speaker, just for the note of the House. You know, in the payment out by Sudan government to US over the attack of terror attacks that was paid to United States through what we call Terrorism Compensation Fund. One of the people that was paid was because of a UN staff was killed, a US citizen, and that compensation. So I hope as she goes back, note that in the Terrorism Prevention and Compensation Fund, we should include. Madam Speaker, we also want the protection of United Nations staff and also Red Cross, because these are people who provide humanitarian assistance. When you see in Eastern Congo, you see in Kakuma, in Uganda, and the spillover is all over there. So on humanitarian crisis, Madam Speaker, I want to propose, as Senator goes back, that we should have a list of all proscribed and militias that continue to destabilize the countries over insecurity issues. Number 5, Madam Speaker, is the Senate and the parliaments that we have been mentioned. We are the source of democracy. What I want to encourage is that as you go back, you go and discuss how we can make democracy be strong. Because most of this, Madam Speaker, this insecurity and conflict is about political power. But if democracy is respected, I'm telling you, 90% of conflict that we see in this region is very important. And I'm happy, Madam Speaker, the President of the Republic of Kenya the other day appointed former Cabinet Minister of Energy, Senator Charles Keter, to be one of the great advisors on peace and security. And we are proud, and I know you know him very well, Madam Speaker. So you can see, Senate, when you pass this House, And I want to assure Senator Ezena that your destiny is brighter, especially when you have gone through the Senate. So she is doing a good job. I've had a discussion. I'm honored to be told to be seconded by Senator Ezena. I didn't know because when we met Senator Charles Keter, he has been telling me about what he's doing about bringing peace in this republic. But as Speaker, by far, this let us have, and I want to request even United Nations, the American, I don't want to say America, let us be told, classify who are these terror organizations that are causing insecurity in our region and across the world. Like the way we have done with Al-Shabaab, we have done with Al-Qaeda, and many others that continue to destabilize the security of this region. Madam Speaker, with those very many remarks, I want to say I support this report and wish well Senator as she needs to know that she's the face of the young people. When young people do this, they give us a good name in terms of leadership, Madam Speaker. So we want, even as young people, we aspire. We also must stay under the guidance of our elders, of the wisdom of the elders. Because they say in my local language, Madam Speaker, an old man seated under a tree can see far than a young man who is on the top of the tree. So as young leaders, we must remain ruthlessly focused, but we must also remain under the tutelage and guidance of our leaders or our people who are senior than us, and they can able, by the way, to provide any support. But I think this is, as women leadership, you must also take charge and provide leadership the way Senator Ezena has provided today. We want to see more of her. I know she was part, Madam Speaker, I've seen she was part of the people who used to lead Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association, KYPA, and she did a good job until her tenure came, Madam Speaker. So we want to tell her to take other challenges that come our way, Madam Speaker, so that many young girls and women who see up to you as a Speaker, Madam Speaker, I know you are the SG Emeritus. You ensured that you midwife the nominations of UDA, and also you assisted us in forming, Madam Speaker, the government that we have today. And we are proud. You can see what women can do. I want to encourage women wherever they are. You are a woman, you delivered. And by the way, Madam Speaker, to be fair, we don't see, and I want to correct this misnomer, as men in leadership, we don't see leadership in terms of gender. We see leadership as leadership, regardless of the gender, because you have capacity and ability to go into the future. And you have had even women, maybe after I become the president, then a woman president can take over. Madam Speaker, with many of those remarks, I want to second and I thank
you, Senator Chirag. Forum of Parliaments by the member states of the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, FPICGLR, held in Juba, South Sudan, laid on the table of Senate on Thursday, 7th December 2023. I do not see any requests for contribution to the debate, but I'll call Senator Ezena to come and reply.
Can I talk? Yonge. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate my colleague, Senator Honorable Cherargei, for seconding it very profoundly and passionately. I had no idea. He was very well informed on these matters. But I also want to inform him that there is another subsequent report that is coming on the issue of the rape of women, and we've been doing actually a lot as a committee in terms of bringing these countries together. There was a time I was privileged to be the president of the forum when I was the only Kenyan delegation who made it to the forum. And it was a very somber mood because some MPs from Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo almost swept each other by feet. You know, that's how intensive the conflict in the region is. And on the issue of the rape of women and displacement of women, a lot of them are actually affected deeply more than just rape. A lot of them are traumatized and depressed. But I want to profoundly thank the Republic of Uganda because they have, I think, one of the largest refugee camps in the world, which is in Western Uganda. It's called Nakivale Refugee Camp, and they have one of the best refugee policies in the world because they have a free policy where all refugees are welcomed to to join the camp from whichever country. And in the Great Lakes region, they are accommodating about refugees from 12 countries. And in the same breath, I would like to also thank our country, our beloved nation of Kenya, under the stewardship of former President Uhuru Kenyatta, because there are about 22 refugees in the camp, and upon visiting it, we were told that these refugees were brought back to the country and integrated back to the community. And I truly, truly want to challenge the African leaders, because all the problems and the displacement and the wars, the displacement and level of trauma that the war is causing in the African soils is very, very tremendous and regrettable, because a lot of these conflicts emanate from poor leadership, from poor decisions, and from negligence of the roles and the duties bestowed upon us by our people, our citizens, our constitution, and God Almighty. And I was very heartbroken in Nakivale when I actually saw very young children, about 4-year-old, running after us and begging us for education. All they want is education. The other major issue that Uganda is facing, we have visited the regional director of the UNHCR, and one of the largest problems they were facing is actually funding. And then United States of America being one of the biggest funders was I think quite strained to say, and we need, as African nations, especially those nations that have stability, we need to contribute more into this into the refugee camps. I also thank Kenya, because Kenya has also a refugee camp in Dadaab, and for those of us sitting in the comfort zone, you have no idea the magnitude of pain and disaster that war is causing across our continent. And with that, Madam Speaker, I also thank all my colleagues for participating very passionately. I don't know the criteria they use to choose the members who sit in this committee, but I think all of us are very strong Pan-Africanists, and whenever we are on that forum, Kenyans stand out because we seem to be well versed with whatever is happening within our continent and very passionate. And being a leading democracy in Africa, proudly to say, we have been leading the negotiation very well. Even my colleague Cherage mentioned that we have our forces in DRC. It's a question of dialogue. It's an issue of dialogue. When we bring Rwanda, DRC, and Central African Republic to the table and make them converse, because I always believe that the person who creates poison has the cure for poison. So once we make it a collective responsibility across the continent to ensure that these countries sit and discuss these issues, putting the people first, I'm sure we will achieve a lot. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Hezena. Honorable Senators, I put the question that the Senate notes the report of the Parliament of Kenya delegation to the 13th Plenary Assembly of the Forum of Parliaments of the Member States of the International Conference on the Great Lake Regions, FPICGLR, held in Juba, Southern Sudan, laid on the table of Senate on Thursday, 7th December 2023. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 13, motion, report of the Kenya delegation to the extraordinary session of the 6th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament held at the Gallagher Convention Center, Midrand, South Africa, from 20th to 27th March 2024.
Senator Danson Mugatana is not present in the House, so this order will be deferred. Honorable Senators, there being no other business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until later today, Wednesday, 22nd May 2024 at 2:30 p.m.